Alright, so what's going on, guys? My name's Chopper, and today's going to be a little bit of a different video. I wanted to discuss the two most popular games in the Battle Royale genre right now, PlayerUnknowns Battlegrounds, or otherwise known as PUBG, and the game you guys know as Fortnite. This is going to be a critical analysis of each game's mechanics, their skill gaps, and what kind of gamers they're made for, because ultimately, at the end of the day, while both of these games are in the Battle Royale shooter genre, and they're very similar in that manner, they're made for completely different types of gamers, and this video is supposed to help you find out which kind you are. Also, as a quick disclaimer, this is not going to be me trying to sway you to one side or the other for any game. It's going to be simply me explaining the differences between these two games, what kind of gamers they're made for, and I'll provide reasons that one game is not inherently inferior to the other. One final thing before we start. I promised this was going to be a zombies channel since I ever started picking up traction on here, and it's going to remain that. I'm going to continue to post zombies and stream zombies on this channel, but if you would like to see me play other games and you kind of just like me as a person and want to watch me play other stuff, I made a second channel. There'll be a link in the description right now. You all should go over there and subscribe if you're interested in that kind of thing. It will not take away from the zombies content. It's just going to be extra content being made, so definitely go subscribe over there if that's something that you would like to see. But with that being said and out of the way, I want to get into the main topic of today's video, and I want to discuss the differences between PUBG and Fortnite, why we like these games so much, and why the Battle Royale genre in general is blowing up right now. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the Battle Royale genre, this is essentially where you take anywhere from 50 to 100 players, put them in a map, and then those players need to go and scavenge for loot, weapons, equipment, and strategize to be the final one standing at the end of the game. And being that final survivor has been something that is so addicting, and I think that's definitely helped popularize this game. But why is that? Well, I want to talk a little bit about Fortnite. Not necessarily the gameplay mechanics just yet, we'll talk about that in a little bit. I want to talk about the way that they've advertised their game and made it available to all players. If you guys did not know, Fortnite is a game that is free to download on every single console, Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. Anybody can get their hands on this game. Now, while this might not be the most profitable decision right now, I doubt the developers are making a significant return on their investment by making it free to play for everybody. I think that this is all part of a bigger plan. PUBG, Fortnite, and H1Z1 have been these games that have completely revolutionized this Battle Royale genre, but Fortnite has been the only one to go ahead and just make it free for everybody to play right now. I actually think that's a pretty smart business idea for them to do. They're winning over as many players as they can right now to this certain game in the Battle Royale genre that they're shutting out effectively all the other games. Now, because Fortnite is on every single console, it's a free to play and it's very easy to get a hold of. This creates a very low barrier to entry. And when I say barrier to entry, what I'm essentially meaning is how difficult or easy it is for the average gamer to, number one, get a hold of this game, but also sort of, start to get used to it and feel like they got the reins on this as well. Fortnite is very easy just to pick up the controller, get straight into a game, and feel like you know what you're doing in the match after just a little bit of practice. Upon your first spawn in and your playthrough, you'll feel like you kind of know what the whole gist of this is about. And obviously, as you play more, you'll start to get better and learn new things. But I attribute a lot of Call of Duty success in the past to this very concept where it's very easy just to pick up a controller in Call of Duty. If you hop into multiplayer, any person, any average gamer can jump in, even if they never played COD before, and could probably manage a kill or two as long as you know the basic control. And that's exactly how Fortnite works. You can jump into a game and it's a very friendly learning curve, so you'll probably end up learning this game very quickly. PUBG is a game with a very high barrier to entry. This game does cost money and it is only on PC. It is coming to Xbox very soon and I assume it'll be on PlayStation 4 at some point or another, but at the time of making this video, it is a PC only game and not every gamer can afford or have a PC that can run this. Just based on those factors alone, the cost barrier and the fact that it is a PC exclusive at the moment, this makes getting into PUBG quite hard to do. And just getting started on PUBG, even if you have the game, is not the easiest thing in the world. It's not a game where you can just pick up a mouse and keyboard or pick up a controller and just get right into it. You're probably gonna get trashed your couple of games. Don't be surprised if you're just starting out on PUBG, it takes you upwards of 10 plus games to even get a single kill. That's not uncommon, especially if you really have never seen the game before. In Fortnite, I gotta kill my very first game, and I gotta win, my very first night playing as well, but PUBG was not that for me. I had to learn the hard way how little mistakes can cost you the entire game and you won't even land a single kill for a long time. That's just how cutthroat and unforgiving this skill gap in PUBG really is. It'll take a long time for really you to get the reins on this game and figure out what you're doing. At least it took me a good 4 to 5 games to land a single kill. Fun fact, I've actually gotten more wins in Fortnite in a week and a half of gameplay than I have ever in my entire career of playing PUBG. I've got about 140 hours logged in the pub, and I've played Fortnite significantly less than that, but yet I still ended up getting more wins. And some people's reasoning might be, well, since you're winning in Fortnite more, you might as well just stick to that game and play that then. And on the surface, that might be a good idea, but when you think about it, that's not necessarily true. When you win a Battle Royale game like Fortnite or PUBG, the first time you're the last survivor and you win, it's an absolutely exhilarating feeling. It's an incredible thrill. Do you guys remember your first nuke on Call of Duty? If you've ever gotten a nuke on Modern Warfare 2, or maybe you got a chem strike on Ghost, a DNA bomb on Advanced Warfare, or something like that, whatever your first nuke was, do you remember what your reaction was to that? Do you remember how you remember that feeling? It probably invoked some kind of physical reaction out of you. You might have jumped out of your chair, you might have started yelling, or something like that. But I know you were sure as hell hyped. Because the threat of death and complete failure in these kinds of games is so real if you make a mistake, this makes the stakes so high, and your victory's that much sweeter when you get a win. That instant adrenaline rush upon your first win in these kinds of games, I guarantee you is going to be enough to invoke some kind of physical reaction from you. That satisfaction when you are the last man standing in this battle royale is something that cannot be captured in any other game mode. Nothing will compare to your first win in this game, your first nuke on Call of Duty, your first kiss, your first anything. With something that great of value, when you accomplish it for the first time, the rush that you get can never be achieved once again. You can replicate it, but it will never be like the very first time you experienced said accomplishment. For example, think back to some other video games you've played in the past. Think of Zombies. Was the first time you did the Rise and Drock Easter egg very exhilarating and exciting? I know it was for me, but upon when you play it, I don't know, the 100th time over, it starts to become less exciting. You know what's going to happen, and your brain just sort of recognizes as same old stuff, and you don't get that same dopamine release that you would from the first time. Your brain releases a bunch of chemicals when something like this happens in life, right? You'll get a primarily release of dopamine, and that's what's responsible for making you happy and excited and exhilarated. But upon repeated trials of that same thing, you will start to feel the dopamine releases less and less. And this is why things get boring, because our brains aren't as stimulated by that exact same thing anymore, and we get bored of whatever we're doing. It's the same concept when people abuse substances. The first time they do a drug, they get extremely high and insanely high, and then they want to recreate that upon repeated attempts at it, but they need to use more and more of that drug to even get close to where they were. And there's a phrase for this. It's called chasing the dragon. It's just basically the concept that to achieve the same feeling that you got the first time from doing it, you'll need to use more and more intensely. And that's why games like Fortnite and PUBG are just so addicting, because the first time you win, the first time you get a taste of that, you want to keep coming back more and more. You'll come back infinitely until you get even just a piece of that feeling that you got for the first time again. And for me, while Fortnite did provide that, it started to fade off very quickly after repeated wins. I think this is just due to the nature of the way Fortnite is made. The gunplay and the looting systems in this game are fairly simple. Most of the guns work pretty much the same way. There's a little bit of differentiation here and there, but Fortnite, for me, the most creativity I got to use and sort of sandbox tactics and stuff was the building aspect. And that's something I give Fortnite a ton of credit for, because there's nothing like being able to create your own strategy on the fly based on the situation given, and I think that's where the big skill gap of Fortnite comes. PUBG, however, is an entirely different ballgame. In just the gunplay itself, every single weapon in the game has its own unique recoil patterns. There's different bullet drop rates, different bullet speeds. You need to be able to lead your shot when a target is far away. You need to be able to know how to zero with the scope if a target is way off in the distance. There's different stance multipliers for your pattern depending on whether you're standing or crouching or laying down. There's different attachments that can do weird things to your recoil, and you also have to manually compensate for the kick on your gun as well. The guns are not lasers in this game. You'll need to use both visual information and audio information to stay alive in this game. Your ears are almost as important as your eyes in most situations. A big part of this game is knowing where shots are coming from when somebody is shooting at you, and figuring out the direction where those are coming from is something that you're gonna have to play through a long time before you really start to master the skill. I know every time I play the game, I get a little bit better at figuring out exactly where somebody is shooting me from, and that's just something that I had to play. Like, it's not something I could just learn by watching a YouTube video. You've got to experience it for yourself to really get a hold of it. Battlegrounds has probably the highest skill gap in any video game that I've ever played to date. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because when you end up winning a game of PUBG, the satisfaction that you get and that dopamine release and adrenaline rush that you receive from when you get your first solo win is something that's unmatched even by Fortnite. And there's a simple reason for that. PUBG is inherently a harder game than Fortnite, and it's a very, very unforgiving game as well. But when you finally make all the right decisions and you play well enough to survive into the top 5, you know, you kill the rest of the guys and you are the last survivor, there's nothing like that adrenaline rush that you get from overcoming all those insane odds. When we're talking about those dopamine releases in Fortnite, its odds are probably you'll experience those more often, but in less doses. And in PUBG, you'll experience them less consistently because it is harder to win this game, but when you do win, those dopamine releases are going to be that much bigger. So an important question you need to ask yourself in picking which game you want to play is, how do you want to experience that exhilaration? Do you want to experience it more often but in just smaller doses with Fortnite, or would you rather have it less consistent and just every once in a while but just in absolutely massive doses? At the end of the day, PUBG is a game that has a very high skill gap, requires a lot of critical thinking if you're going to end up playing well. It's a more mature themed thing. It's a bit harder to get into, but if you want to really put in the time and effort to get into this game, you'll find that it's a very rewarding gaming experience. If you're the kind of player where you want a game that's going to keep you learning through multiple playthroughs, it's going to take months and months to fully master and learn, then PUBG is the game for you. And to be honest with you guys, this is actually my game of choice. I prefer to play PUBG, and the reason is, this has been the only game in a very, very long time that has genuinely made me feel like a complete noob. No other skill in any game that I've played really transferred over to this. I had to learn it from the ground up, but it's been so rewarding to do so, and I think a lot of people will appreciate that sort of grind you need to put in and learn a game all over again. If you're looking for a more simplified battle royale that's very easy to access on any sort of console and to get in and start playing right away, then Fortnite is going to be the game for you. It's a very just fast-paced, action-packed, silly-looking environment that anybody can really play. Either way, whatever your preference is, I'll recommend you try both games and see which one you end up liking better. But I want to make this video to compare these two games, as a lot of people were asking my opinions on them, and I sort of wanted to lay them out in a whole video for you guys to go back and watch. But this is going to be my opinions on these games, guys, and I hope you did enjoy this. If you did, don't forget to leave a like on the video. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel if you are brand new. And other than that, I'll see you all up in the next video. Peace out.